Yo, how's it going, guys? Rudy with TCG back at it again with another video. And today I'm joined with Will Jenkins, coming off a nice finish at the Madison Regional Championships. Yeah, so feel free to introduce yourself.
How's it going, everyone? My name is Will. I'm a player from the Maryland area. I just came back from Madison Regionals where I threw a free top 8 and ended up getting top 32 after starting 801 in day 1 with PIKAROM. List credit goes to Rahul Reddy, and it was a lot of fun. Good deck.
Yep. All right. So you played the PIKAROM archetype in Madison. I'm gonna throw the list up on the screen right here, and yeah. So to start it all off, can you explain the inclusion of double Let Loose in your deck?
Okay, Let Loose is an extremely powerful card right now. A common misconception is that it's good on turn 1 to disrupt your opponent, but really what Let Loose is for is it's supposed to be a pseudo like hand disruption. So you can have big swing turns where you can full blitz and load up your board and then Let Loose, and you just want to have 2 so that if you prize one, you can still pull it off. Or if there's multiple swing turns within a game, you can use it more than once. And at the same time, if you draw a bad hand, you can use Let Loose if that's something you draw to get 4 new cards. So it's overall just a very solid card, and it warrants the 2 spots. It was something that we got the idea from based on Alex Shemansky's second place list from Santa Clara, including 2 Let Loose. So I think that's the reason Rahul included it in the first place.
Yep, and you decided to go with the box approach of playing 2 Zapdos and 2 Pikarom. Did you find this was the best way to go, or did you feel like you missed having a third Pikarom?
Yeah, Pikachu and Zekrom is it's a really solid card right now, but a lot of the time you don't want to like give your opponent 6 prizes with Pikachu or Zekrom, so you mainly want to full blitz and then load up as Aurora or something so that you can force your opponent to go like 3 prizes, 2 prizes, 2 prizes, or like Zapdos and then the Pikachu and Zekrom and another Pikachu and Zekrom. So we never really felt like we needed 3. Obviously, if you were to prize both in one game, 3 could be nice, but 2 is a fine count.
So you also decided to play the tech Pokemon Absol. Why did you end up going with this? I know that you played it in your list from last season, but then you ended up cutting it. So why did it come back in?
Absol is really, really good against any deck that plays Jirachi. And in my round 10, I was streamed against Azul, and you can see me games 1 and 2 aggressively going for it early, just because although decks run Switch, Absol can still be very disruptive to any like Jirachi variant. And it was also really cute. In some matchups, they would open like Dedenne or Lele, something not ideal, and you could put the Absol down and force them to commit 2 energies to something if they don't play Escape Board or whatever in their deck. And it's mainly there for Zapdos Beast. That matchup's pretty poor, but the Absol can help slow their pace down a little bit to where you can win.
Yeah, nice, nice. The next thing on the list is you played 2 Dedenne, 2 Let Loose, and 1 Tapu Lele. Did you ever have like problems with starting these Pokemon too much, or did you find this number of 5 draw Pokemon to be good?
Um, since you have Zorora, it's never really an issue starting one of those Pokemon. The Lele is probably the worst since you only run the one, and Lele's really good for getting like Guzma and stuff. So there was never really an issue with it. I ended up starting the resetting whole Marshadow the most, and it's actually not a bad starter since you can just kind of pop it off the bench whenever you want. But yeah, there's no real issue starting those 5 Pokemon.
All right, then moving into the trainer cards, you went with 4 Energy Switch, if I'm
Yep.
correct. Uh, why so many?
With the Mew card that is now in our format that kind of nerfs Pikarom from being an insanely broken deck to just like still pretty good but not insane every game if they play Mew. It gives you flexibility to where you can go with full blitz and set up 2 Pokemon, and then if they don't have Mew on their board or whatever, you can draw a bunch of E-switch and put all your energies on the active. So it gives you a lot of flexibility. And if you aren't able to draw into things, you can full blitz to like Lele or Dedenne and then E-switch onto different Pokemon that you can get later if your bench gets full or and something gets knocked out. It overall just provides a lot of flexibility with your list, and it kind of makes it so that your energy attachments don't get punished nearly as much when you commit your energy on the board. And since everything gets free retreat with Aurora, it's nice that E-Switch can kind of act as a way to just give mobility too. And 4 was an ideal count so that you can draw into it when you need to.
And in this list, you played a total of 4 Ultra Ball, 2 Nest Balls, and 2 Electromagnetic Radar. Did you find that number to be like too much overkill, or did you think that you needed it to draw into the Pokemon that you needed?
Usually past turn 1, the ball count kind of becomes a little overkill. I would never cut below it, but it always felt that once you get past like turn 1, turn 2, you never really need the like more radars and stuff. They're really only there to grab 1 or 2 Pokemon, which Nest Ball fulfills. But the Nest Ball is really important to get like Coco Prism or any of the baby things that you can't grab with electromagnetic radar. There were games where I would like Lily for a bunch of cards and then not hit any draw cards, and I mean that's just kind of luck of the draw. But I feel like the count we played is probably close to perfect. You could drop a Nest Ball for a third radar or increase Nest Ball as a card in general. But I know that personally I was looking at cutting Absol, so you might not need a heavier Nest Ball. You could favor a Mysterious Treasure, grab one of the 4 Psychic Pokemon in the deck.
Yep, for sure. And you went with only 1 switching card in your list, and it was Escape Rope, not Switch. How did you feel about that over the weekend?
Not playing like natural switch cards, like Switch as a card, made it so that if you want to kind of like go 80-80 with Zapdoses on turns, you would have to bench Zorora. So you can't really establish the one prize game that a previous Pika Box deck from like quarter 3 would be able to establish. So it's a little annoying in that respect, but since you play the 2 Zorora, you pretty much always have free retreat on whatever you need, and then Guzma adds its own sense of mobility. So the 1 Escape Rope was mainly just for like Reshizard. If they were to Kiawe on turn 1 and only have the Reshizard, you can Escape Rope it and then smack it with Zapdos for 80, and now you have numbers set up on your board. But I think I would drop the Escape Rope in favor of 4th Guzma.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask about that. If you wanted 4 Guzma over 3, and yep, seems like you answered it. So another odd card was the inclusion of Stealthy Hood. I assume it's in there just because you didn't want to take an auto loss to Vileplume, because you don't play any Stage 1 lines. Did you find this card being useful, or would you cut it out?
Unlike Xander, Rahul, and Justin, I played against 3 Weezing and a common strat. Or I played against no stalls, first of all, so I was completely dead in that aspect. But I played against 3 Weezing, and my game plan against Weezing would kind of like analyze what I have in my hand and see if I can find like 1 or 2 prizes with Zapdos and Guzma, so like kill a Coughing, kill another Coughing, or something on the bench. And eventually I would have energies on the board and transition to get Coco GX in the active with a Stealthy Hood, bump their Stadium, blower their spell tags, and just start going Sky High Claws, Sky High Claws, Sky High Claws. And they really don't have a response. None of the Weezings I played against this weekend or this past weekend had any blowers or stuff to remove the Stealthy Hood, so the 10 never affected the active, because that's like Stealthy Hood versus Weezing on a basic. And it was overall just really solid against the Weezing. If Stall ever, or if Plume in general ever gets hyped, the Stealthy Hood is really, really powerful, but there were not many Stall/Plume variants around this weekend. But yeah, it was a good inclusion for me at least. It was very helpful against the 3 Weezings I played.
Yep, and the last card question that I have is you opted to run 2 blower. A lot of lists were basically guaranteeing the first blower, but you decided to go with 2. Can you explain why?
We were scared of Weezing. We didn't want to lose to it, and I did not take spell tag damage once this entire weekend. The only time it happened was I tag bolted for game, but the spell tag was able to take 4 prizes from my opponent. And this was the only time I couldn't remove the spell tag, and we ended up going to a tiebreaker. And since this deck is much more aggressive than Weezing, yeah, I was able to just win that way. So that I don't really count that. It just kind of made me go to a tiebreaker instead of winning the game outright. Ended up winning anyways. Blower's good against a skateboard, good against anything. It's just a good card in general. It helps to get rid of stadiums since you only play the Thunder Mountain and the reset hole. So Shrine, like Shrine decks play 3 to 4 to like a high count of Shrine, and it's just nice to blower that stuff. You can get rid of opposing choice bands and things on Reshizard so that they can't one-shot Pikachu and Zekrom. And overall, Field Blower is just a really good card.
Yep. All right. So now we're going to get into the reason why you brought PIKAROM this weekend and if you still think it was a good call. All right. So why did you bring PIKAROM?
I got into Chicago on Friday morning thinking that I would be playing some type of fire deck whether that was a Jirachi version of Reshizard or Blound's GX. And I ended up getting picked up from the airport by Xander Pro, and then Xander Pro, Rahul, and I kind of hung out. And Rahul was kind of talking about how he wanted to play Pika because he almost played it for Santa Clara, but then got scared of like fire stuff. And he ended up kind of like throwing the idea out here that, hey, we could play Pika. So I was still testing Blounds, and I had Justin Bokhari and Rahul. They played Blounds versus Pika, and Pika smashed Blounds 4-1 in games, and the one loss was a dead draw from Rahul's side as the PIKAROM player. So after that, I kind of just got this mindset that I would just play Pika and get good night's rest and whatnot. And I kind of just went with it. And looking back on the weekend, I had no issues with the deck. There were some fizzling out in day 2 that caused me to lose way more games than I anticipated. But I have no regrets on playing the deck. It was a lot of fun. And the 4 people that played same 60 and Masters all made day 2. So it worked out really well.
Yep. So what good and bad matchups do you have with PIKAROM?
Okay. I think that pretty much most matchups are good. Your worst matchups would be Zap Beasts and a Reshizard box that's not like the Greens engine with choice fans that's like a 50-50 matchup, but I mean you can lose pretty easily just to if they draw well and choice fan at the right time. Zap Beast is pretty unfavorable. Just like Sledgehammer and Nightcap are very hard for Pikachu and Zekrom as a card to deal with because they one-shot Pika, and it's just not a great matchup. 1 prizes versus 3 prizes usually works out for the 1 prizers. And the other matchup that I learned this weekend could be a little sketchy if you can't draw the right cards is Zoroark with a Mew. Zoroark Persian. Now that they have Persian in their deck, you can't really just like let loose them and hope they don't draw the cards they need. Persian adds a level of the deck that can one-shot a Pikachu and Zekrom, and if you add Mew, you can't just take 4 prizes in 1 turn. So you kind of have to play it where you use Zapdos for 2 small prizes, not activating Catwalk, and then you one-shot 2 GXs. But if you don't draw into your modifiers, it doesn't exactly work out that way. So Zoroark, I could put like 50-50 based on draws, and then the other 2 matchups, Reshizard, Box, and Zap Beast is unfavorable.
All right. So now let's go into your matchups. So starting round 1, what did you play against, and how did it go?
Okay, round 1, I played against Ultra Malamar. I lost game 1. I was still trying to like figure out the matchup because I didn't really test a ton of games with this, and I ended up just like playing it the way I thought I would play out, and it didn't work that way. So I changed up my game plan and then just won games 2 and 3. So that was the reasoning for the loss in game 1, just like getting adjusted to the matchup, and then I was able to figure out what to do and beat him 2 games after that. Then I played against Weezing in round 2. I 2-0'd Weezing. Pretty much what I explained earlier is you could just take 2 prizes early and transition into Coco GX and just start one-shotting things. Never take spell tag damage because you play Blower. Same thing in round 3. I hit Weezing again, did the same thing. In round 3, my opponent played the Honchkrow that does more damage if there's damage counters on your board. So that was able to one-shot my Coco at some point. But from there, I just rescue stretchered the Coco back, had enough energies on my board, sent it up again, and just started one-shotting things without the hood. But at that point, it was a little too late. Then I hit a Pika in round 4. I donked a Dedenne going first in game 1, and then game 2, the trade just went in my favor. I was able to Tapu Thunder GX a huge Pika with all the energies and completely wipe his board of energy. And from there, I just kind of won that way. Then I hit an Ultra Malamar. I lost game 1 due to I don't remember drawing very well this game, and I think I prized my second Zapdos, so I couldn't like do Zapdos kills and then transition into GXs, and then I was able to win games 2 and 3 through just different means of attacking. He did play Mew, so the matchup was significantly more troublesome than it could have been if there was no Mew. And then I hit Jimmy Pendarvis with DDG's Reshizard list. My friend Justin Bokhari had hit the deck earlier in the day, and we kind of collectively figured out that they don't run Choice Band. So this was my first time playing against that deck out of the 3 times I played it in the event. And I blame this tie mainly on just inexperience in the matchup. I was able to win game 1. I lost game 2 due to overbenching, and just couldn't like get stuff on the board that I needed. And then I ended up tying with, I believe, game on board, or at least it was looking very favorable for me to win the game. It would have finished, but he was able to heal a Snorlax with Miltank 3 times in a row, and then I eventually set up the tag bolt play and got down to 1 prize, but unfortunately my last turn couldn't be played out because it would have been turn 4 in time. So I tied that. I was 501 at this point. I hit a Reshizard. This would be, I guess, a win into day 2 essentially. 2-0'd it. Played an Onyx, but I won game 1, and then he just kind of bricked game 2. That's about all that happened there. Then I hit my 3rd Wheezing of the day. I beat it game 1, how I was explaining to beat Wheezing. And then in game 2, he got a slower start, so I went more aggressive with my board, and it ended up getting down to the point where Spell Tag triggers with Tag Bolt in play, and somehow it got down to a tiebreaker. So we set up 1 Pokemon, whoever, or 6 prizes, whoever takes the first prize wins. I opt to go second. Not the greatest play in hindsight. I was just kind of focused on winning the game in 1 turn, but I figured since Weezing can't evolve, I probably should have just gone first. I looked at my deck going second, and I realized that I prized both my Zapdos. If I did not prize both Zapdos, I would have just won the game on that turn, but I did prize both Zapdos, so that was pretty cool, and I was able to just win the game next turn by attacking with Coco GX, popping Coco Prism, and doing all that. So I didn't get too punished there, but when I looked at my deck and saw both my Zapdos were prized, I was like, oh, cool, whatever. So that was that. And then round 9, I hit Caleb Gedimer with their DDG Reshizard list. I lost game 1 to draws, won game 2, and game 3, I opened a completely awful hand. There's a lot of people watching this game at this point, and I get let loose on turn 1, and I'm staring at like Absol, Energy, and Marshadow, and Marshadow let loose. And eventually I let loose myself, trying to draw literally anything. I draw even more garbage, and eventually I top deck Electromagnetic Radar, and am able to come back from, I think I was down 2 to 3 prizes, and ended up winning the game through Tag Bolt and other busted cards. And it was not a match that I was expecting to win, but I ended up pulling it out, and that was how I went 801 in day 1. Definitely was not expecting to win that matchup, but ended up winning it.
Yep. Then going into day 2, first seed.
Yeah. Guaranteed to hit Azul in round 10. This match is on stream, so you can go watch it if you want at LGN streams, twitch.tv or whatever. I win game 1 very convincingly. The matchup essentially plays out where you take a knockout early, then full blitz and fill your board, and then since their list can't one-shot a PIKAROM, they kind of have to just swing into it and pray. And at this point, you can just do chip damage and set up Tag Bolt, or if they go all in and try and Double Blaze GX for 300, the Pika, you instantly respond with Coco GX, and they have no energy on their board. They've already used their GX attack, so they can't use the 3 energy on Reshi to one-shot the Coco back. And from there, you just kind of win the game because they have no energy on their field. And that was pretty much what happened game 1. Game 2, I lost because I prized the Coco GX, so the whole strategy I just explained does not work. And then I lost game 3 because I Lily for 4, hit 4 dead cards, and proceed to just attach energies and pass the game and lose in like 5 minutes. So that whole match is on stream, and you can go see that if you want to. In round 11, I hit Ian Robb, the eventual winner of the event, with Blounds GX. I lose game 1 on a coin flip, which was pretty epic. I have Tag Bolt for game, and I flip the coin, flip tails. The only reason I flipped was because if I just passed, he was going to win the game anyways. He just attaches an energy, announces Mind Blown for a bunch of damage, and wins. But if I flip heads, I win the game. And it was a very awkward game because I am going second, I believe. I set up my entire board, but I don't find Coco Prism. And he turn 2 mucks me, so now I'm behind a turn on attacking. And I just trap his muck active and try and draw back into the game. And then he bursting burns my huge Pika, and that's how I lost on a coin flip.
That's really interesting, actually, because I did an interview with Danny Chalet, who played him in round 10, and he also lost to Ian Robb on a coin flip.
Yeah, so, Ian won a lot of games this weekend on coin flip. So I think it's even seen on stream where he wins against Pram on a coin flip, or maybe Azul. I can't remember which one it was, but I know I was watching the stream in the crowd seating, and we were just like, Bursting Burn is the most busted attack on both FGX.
Yeah,
So,
he literally won 2 games in a row that if he lost, he wouldn't have been in top 8 based on
yep.
a flip. Yeah, that's crazy. All right, you can continue.
And then game 3, I open my hand. I start Absol, and then I just sit there promoting week 1 prize Pokemon like Let Loose and stuff, and just get benched. So similar to round 10, just with smaller Pokemon that get really one-shot easily. So that was not fun. And then I hit a Pika Mirror, the same guy I played day 1 in round 12. I don't exactly remember what happens in this game, but I'm pretty sure it's just a trade war based on who goes first. I won game 1, lost game 2, won game 3. That's how that went. Then I hit a Zoro Persian Slowking. This match, like I explained, kind of comes down to being able to take one prizers and then one-shotting GX Zoroarks and Persians. I remember making a play where if he Acerolas and benches Mew, it looks very bleak for me. But I have the cards in my hand to tag bolt for essentially game if he can't do that. And I kind of just go all in on this play, but make it safe enough to where I have the E-switches in my hand to full blitz only 1 to the active so that I can just double E-switch to the active and tag bolt if he doesn't have Acerola. He ends up having Acerola and Mew. And from there, it's just kind of like I can't draw my damage modifier, so he just swings 120, 120 until Persian can one-shot stuff. So that's how I lost game 1. And game 2, same thing happened against Ian. I just kind of promoted small stuff, losing the game over time. It's not very fun. And then in the last round, which I believe would have been a win into top 8 based on resistance, but it needed a match against a 29 match pointer and a 28 match pointer to go in the 28 match pointer's favor. Didn't end up happening that way, so I probably would have gotten 9th if I won this round. I'm not 100% sure. Obviously, I didn't win, so that goes into effect. But it was against another Pika Mirror. I lost game 1 to draws, won game 2, and then I lost game 3 after looking like I was favored to win, and he ends up drawing the correct cards off his one prize that he took on his whatever Pokemon and his draw for turn to essentially checkmate me by swinging into a Pika for 230 and having the Mew on board so he can use Mew's whatever the attack is to put damage counters to one-shot the Pika, or he can just kill whatever I promote with a big PIKAROM if I don't kill the Pika. So I try and see what my outs are, and I calculate that I think the best option is to send up a fresh Pika, one-shot the Mew, and hope he doesn't have Guzma. So I do that, and he ends up having Guzma and wins the game by killing my bench Pika, and that was the end of my tournament. So I started 8-0-1, and it ended up 9-4-1, I believe. So ended up in the top 32 after an amazing start day 1, and it happens. It's the game we play. It's not too upset about it, but I had a really good time. The deck was a lot of fun to play, and shout out to everyone that supported me along the way.
Any specific shout-outs on the way out?
Shout out to Rahul Reddy for the 60, of course, everyone else that played the deck. Carl Verone, just what a supportive guy, always coming up to me at events and kind of being the hype man. I expected him to go 9-0 with Vikavolt, but it turns out I was the one that was first seed, so that didn't exactly work out for him. But Vikavolt was pretty epic to see on stream, and yeah, just a lot of fun times. Madison is a really nice city. I suggest you go see it someday if you haven't, to anyone watching. And yeah, it was a very, very fun event and trip as a whole.
All right, well, thank you for coming on.
No problem, and thank you to you for having me on.
Yep, see you in the next one.